You ever sit back and say, look at the last 6 years worth of game releases and realize a huge chunk of them have been remakes? No? Well, I did. Follow-up question, have you ever started to get a little bit fed up or bored of them? I know I have in certain cases. I asked because Ubisoft just revealed the AC4 remake recently, and despite loving the original, I felt absolutely nothing for it, so I figured I might as well just make a video and talk about it. So I worked out while I was working on this that I'm not fed up of remakes. I think sometimes they're awesome, but I am fed up of the pointless ones. The type that either don't change much, make the game worse, or just in general don't feel needed. Some examples, the ones that come to my mind first is like Last of Us Part 1, Kiwami 3, or MGS Delta.
What?
Don't get me wrong, these aren't bad games. Well, apart from Kiwami 3, it's pretty bad from what I'm hearing. But ask yourself, were they needed? All three of these games could be played on current hardware, whether that be The Last of Us Remastered, Yakuza 3 Remastered, or MGS 3 in the Remastered Collection. So they're all available on the most recent hardware, so no modding or emulation needed. And it's not like they had any sort of glaring issues. And no, I'm not counting Yakuza 3's combat with all the blocking, because as far as I'm aware and what I've been told, Kiwami 3 made it worse.
I hate you!
But I do think the industry has become too afraid to stray off the remake path. I mean, look at Konami. In 2024, you had Silent Hill 2, and then 10 months later, you had MGS Delta. That's two big remakes back to back. Silent Hill, yes, it had an original game announced, but it hadn't even released yet. As far as I'm aware, there might be like a week or so in between. Now, I know some may say they don't want to play the original versions because they don't like the controls of, say, MGS 3. And I get that. The controls of MGS 3 in particular are quite interesting if you're not used to it. So I completely get that. But in regards to The Last of Us, it's the exact same game. And the ones I've listed definitely have some good additions, but I do think they can be very boring. MGS Delta has the better controls technically, and you could say the better visuals, but it was boring because it was just a one-for-one in that regard. And when I look back, I feel no urge to replay it because I'd rather play the original, because the look of that game and the controls part of his identity to me personally, but I get it, everyone's different. Now, I know that remaking games has been a thing since the beginning. Look at the original Resident Evil, Pac-Man probably got remade, and MGS Twin Snakes. So I'm fully aware it's been going around for a while. But I feel like some companies are only doing it because it's safe and easy. And yes, I know most of these companies do it for the exact same reason. But there are levels to this one, alright? Because you have AC4, for example, which yes, looks prettier and probably runs ever so slightly better, and you'd like to think it would, wouldn't you? But it's clearly being done because the last few newer AC games haven't done nearly as well as planned. As well as the fact that Skull and Bones also was a massive failure after 10 years of waiting. So we might as well repurpose the assets, which is cool. I get that. And I'm not saying the devs of AC4 Remake don't love AC4 or Assassin's Creed. They probably do. They probably love it. But there is a reason that the higher ups at Ubisoft picked AC4 over AC1, even though one of them isn't available on all of the modern systems and desperately needs an update. Now, on the other side of this hypothetical pond that we're at, we have Capcom with their RE2 remake. The original hasn't been re-released since the PS3 days and has had no easy way to actually play this classic, so this remake immediately has a more justifiable existence. On top of that, the directors made sure to update some aspects, especially the story. So they made it that Leon isn't hungover on the first day, so he misses the morning. He's late, and they made Leon fit a bit more close with RE4. Like he does a couple of quips and a couple of bad jokes throughout the game, so they flow a bit better. They also made the game over the shoulder instead of tank controls, so that it's a bit more modern. But they also update the horror, so it stays the same horror game that you remember, but just that little bit tweaked, and in some cases more scary. And of course, they updated the visuals and the audio, just so is a bit more up there. Now, this remake isn't flawless. It has definitely got problems. For example, the B scenarios are just shortened A scenarios. However, I will say that this one makes more sense than, say, the Horizon remake, which kept it, just like The Last of Us did. Now, I do plan to make a bigger video on remakes, so I don't want to deep dive into them so much here. But I know someone will mention how, say, RE4 or FF7 didn't technically need one, going off of my earlier point, because how both are on, like, everything. And to that, I say neither needed a remake, and I agree. However, there is a big enough difference for both games that it works for me. I mean, RE4, for example, I was against it first. When that thing leaked, I was saying, what's the point? Go to Code Veronica. It makes more sense, right? But then when it released, it was a completely different ballgame. For starters, they made Leon now fit more with RE2R, like I said earlier, vice versa. So unlike the original, he doesn't feel like two completely different characters now. They also got rid of the tank controls, which again, as I liked them, I thought it worked great for the game, but the modern controls are definitely nicer, and they updated a bit of the story, character designs, they've made Ashley a little bit less annoying. I personally didn't mind her in the first place, but they improved on her that way. And in general, they just kind of modernized it and made it a bit more serious, but still kept the humor of the game. So in my opinion, it justified it quite well. I thought it was a good enough remake. Now, FF7, do I really need to go into that much detail on why this was justified? Not only is this one of the greatest games of all time, the visuals, whilst not everything, are beautiful, but the main point is in part 1 of the remake. We have Midgar. In the original, it's like 5 to 10 hours, if I'm remembering that correctly, that is. Well, the devs figured it deserved its own game, and they were absolutely right. So the first part of the remake out of the 3 is just Midgar. They stretched that 10-hour section into 50 hours, and it worked. And then now we're having a whole trilogy, which is now actually more of a sequel than anything. So, you know, I know that's a debate at the moment. Is it a remake? Is it a sequel? But I think FF7 was justified because it's got new combat, new visuals, voiced cutscenes, and just voiced characters in general, new story moments, and in general, it's just such a different game to its original. And to just clarify, I don't think the remakes I listed earlier are pointless because they're bad or not for me. I played MGS Delta, like I said, and Last of Us 1, but I do feel like they were a waste of time and resources for the devs in a lot of cases. PlayStation has had the biggest problem for that with both Last of Us and Horizon. I mean, they've had a rough few years, and in response, they remake the games we can already easily play instead of something new from the series, which is what people are asking for. I mean, it's not like The Last of Us or Horizon sold badly or rare games. You can go down to your local game store, probably get them for £5, $10, or whatever currency you want to use. I think if a company is going to remake several games, they should also balance it out with new releases in between. And I know I mentioned them a lot, but look at Capcom, for example. In 2019-2020, we had RE2 and RE3 remake. Now, I know that's 2 remakes back to back, but it was a different studio, and both games happened at the same time, so I get what they were going for. In 2021, you had RE8, a completely new original Resident Evil. 2023, you then had RE4, obviously a remake of the original. And then we had 3 years of pretty much no Resident Evil, and then we get, in this year, RE9. So I find that's good pacing, and Square does the exact same, but I'm not going to list all the games they've done since they started doing the FF7 remake series, because we'd be here a while, and I got to do. Like I said, I don't want to go into a deep dive the history of remakes, the good, the bad, etc., as I plan to make a bigger video on this topic, but all I'll say for now is that I like remakes, but I think if it's released on the PS4 or the Xbox, then leave it alone. Do an upgrade update. If it's from the PS3 or older and could really use an update, or it isn't regularly available, then go for it. And one last thing, why do we only remake games that are already great? Like, surely if you're remaking something, you want to improve it, right? So why not remake some bad games? Or even some bad, broken, buggy messes? I know my pipe dream remake, and I mean this completely unironically, I've wanted this for years, is Sonic 06. Purely because the potential was there 20 years ago, and I think it really could be something great had we fixed the loading times, the buggy mess, and maybe update the story so we don't have some weird bestiality love story. That was a bit of a weird turn, and maybe fix the designs. I don't like the true human designs. I think we need to update and change something. But I think a remake of that game could be something incredible. But that's all from me for now. If you liked this video, maybe leave a like and subscribe to help the channel grow. I release videos every 2 weeks on a Friday on various different topics about games. So leave a comment on your views for remakes, or a remake that you really want to see.
Eat your cereal with a fork and do your homework in the dark.